The Meteorology, Climatology and Geophysics Agency (BMKG) has predicted that the dry season, which is expected to start in August until September, will be much drier compared to the past 3 years. And to get more details about the weather conditions during the dry season, we are now connected via Zoom with Arda Sena Sopahelubukan, Acting Deputy for Climatology BMKG. Good afternoon, Mr. Arda Sena. We know that the dry season normally is predicted takes place between April to September, or now we can see now there is this climate change. So how long will this dry season is predicted this year, and when will it start and end?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. On the duration of the dry season this year, the majority of the area in Indonesia has started its onset of the dry season actually as early as April. Some areas like in the eastern part of Sumatra, like Riau, for instance, have its first dry season in March, for instance. But for the majority part, most of us who are living in Java, for instance, the onset of the dry season was in June already, and it is predicted to last at least until the end of October.
Right, so you received reports on regions that are already experiencing drought, correct?
Yeah.
And currently,
to date, 63% of the area in Indonesia are already commencing the dry season, while the rest will be following soon.
All right, so now currently there are still rainfalls, as we know, and in some regions. What are the explanations for this?
Yeah, so we have to all understand that Indonesia is a very big country. It's very fast. The climate is also quite diverse and it's quite complicated. There are many factors that are contributing to the climate, especially also rainfall. Topography plays a role. Sea surface temperature condition plays a role. And so there are different zonation of climate regime, also from east to west of Indonesia. So, for instance, in the majority of the southern part of Indonesia, those who are living in Java, Bali, and Nusa Tenggara are already experiencing dry condition, while our other brothers and sisters, for instance, who are living in the eastern part of Sulawesi and also the majority part of the Maluku Islands and Papua, are still now experiencing the rainy season. And that diversity is actually natural due to the complexity of the geography of Indonesia, but also to the climate. So there are different factors that are influencing the rainfall condition, the seasonal condition in Indonesia, such as those mentioned earlier, like the topography, geographical condition, and also the sea condition.
Okay, Mr. Arda Sena, El Nino, we understand that it contributes to the drought in Indonesia. But countries like in India and also Philippines are experiencing floods and landslides. Is there an explanations for this? We would like to know. And are there regions in Indonesia that are also experiencing floods, for example, and also prone to floods during the dry season?
Yeah, so regions such as the Philippines and India are now experiencing their monsoon season. So the monsoon in India is coming from their western direction, and the same as also for the Philippines region, which are facing to the South China Sea, are experiencing now their monsoon season or rainy season. That is typically different than what we are experiencing in Indonesia. So that is why we see there is plenty of rainfall in India as well as in the Philippines. And regarding to the question where in Indonesia we might still have a rainy condition or high rainfall condition, at the present time we still see quite a substantial amount of rainfall in the northern part of Sumatra, for instance, North Sumatra province, Aceh, the majority of Kalimantan, for instance, the northern part is also still experiencing a rainy season. And also the northern part of Sulawesi and the Maluku Islands are now still experiencing quite some heavy rainfall, which may then lead to undesired conditions such as floods or landslide if unmitigated.
The head of BMKG yesterday already warned about the threats of drought to agricultural products. So BMKG, does BMKG have any suggestions for the governments, farmers, and business players to anticipate drought?
Yes, we have warned about the possibility of the coming dry condition as well as the overshadowing El Nino, which is happening now since as early as February this year, and the agriculture sector, the Ministry of Agriculture, have received this information well, and they have anticipated with a set of actions which they are quite familiar actually when facing dry condition. For instance, they are adapting their planting calendar as one possible action item. They are also suggesting varying of crops that are more drought resistance, and also they may also suggest to the farmers to diversify the types of crop that are more suitable to plant during dry season, not as such as rice, for instance, but those crops such as maize or cassava, for instance. And they are quite familiar with these type of adaptation actions which should take place during the drought condition. And this has been disseminated countrywide, not only in the central government side, but all the way to the farmers level.
Lastly, we would like to know BMKG advice for the public in anticipating this dry season, please.
Yes, so we would like to invite or also advise the general public to be quite wise in using scarce water resources. If your livelihood are directly dependent to fresh water use from rainfall, for instance, you may have to adapt with the current dry condition, and also actions which are pro towards saving waters, which are quite advisable during the coming months, which we will face during this drought condition. So avoid actions such as maybe as simple as too many washing of your cars, for instance. We can reduce that type of activity during the coming dry season. And also we can save water while there is still some spots of rainfall here and there. We might use it for some wise use. So that is sort of our general advice or general guidance for the general public. While for the specific sectors, we have a set of advice which we routinely disseminate to them quite routine and quite systematically.
Mr. Ardasena Sopaheluwakan, Acting Deputy for Climatology, BMKG, thank you very much for your time and sharing with us here on Focus Today.